Welcome to the Assistant Room Podcast Season 2. We are the go-to online community for assistants around the world. And if you're looking for some serious career inspiration from some of the best and brightest executive assistants, you're in the right place. If we haven't met before, or if you're just joining us, I'm Jessica Gardner, founder of award-winning PAEA membership platform, The Assistant Room. Make sure you hit the follow button to keep up to date with all of our future episodes. But without further ado, welcome to Season 2 of the Assistant Room Podcast. In this episode, I sit down with Maggie Ivanova, Office Manager and Executive Assistant at Shard Capital Partners. In this extremely inspiring episode, Maggie talks about her first experience of living in London and how she navigated life in a country where she had no friends or family, how her strong inner belief system and incredible determination led her to be named Mrs. World in 2020, her greatest advice for anyone looking to develop their confidence and break out of their comfort zone, plus how to banish imposter syndrome and become the best and most fearless version of yourself. Welcome. Second time lucky that we're here doing this. Thank you so much, Maggie. The first time we tried doing this was how long ago? About 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, about 6 weeks.
We got the whole way through. And then we got back to the office and realised that we had no audio from our conversation. Oh my God, nightmare. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Let's just jump straight in and let's talk about you, because obviously that's what we're here to do. Let's go back to when you first moved to London and what that transition was like. Give us a kind of background about where you started and then where you are and how you got to where you are today.
Oh gosh, that was so long time ago. Well, I came to London in my early 20s and I didn't speak any English at all. I think I had one private English lesson at that time before arriving in London. Maybe 5 words, and I probably could put like a couple of sentences together, like what's my name is, where I'm from, that kind of simple things. And I was really scared, to be honest. I never been abroad at that time, and that was my first adventure, really. So I was kind of excited but scary at the same time. And arriving in London, actually, I kind of start doing my I wanted to prove myself that I can do what, I wanted to learn English. I wanted to develop myself as a person and, just do something different from what I used to do back in Bulgaria. And it was really interesting. I started working in it's like a catering jobs, hospitality, things like that, because it was just easier to find jobs at that time. I arrived around beginning of July. So just summertime, and it was nice, and it was easier actually to find a job. And I think I started as a glass collector first. That was my very first job. As obviously you don't need English for that. You just cleaning around. That's perfectly easy. My background as well, apart from university, is I have a degree from hospitality, so I'm a chef, restaurant manager, all this stuff, pastry chef.
I didn't know that. What's your favourite thing to make?
Well, food, meal, like it's a moussaka. That's my favourite, and I love it so much. A sweet, I can't really say anything, sweet. I'm not really a sweet tea person. But so it was not difficult for me. I already work in this field apart from my scholarship and things in the summer, so kind of easy for me to find a job in the hospitality. And at that time, I obviously put myself to school, and I started going 3 times a week to study English. But I think I dropped after the first 3 months or something like that, only because you really have. London is expensive. You have to work more.
Yeah.
So I think I dropped out 3 months later, and I started learning at home. The internet was just starting up at that time. So we're talking about 2000, 2001. And I think Google had only a few pages available. Literally, realistically, there's nothing you can. So I bought lots of discs for English. I was watching BBC, Channel 5, all these things. I was reading, obviously, the underground metro newspaper every morning. It's crazy. But I did manage to taught myself in a way.
That's
So
amazing.
yes,
'Cause,
that's how I moved a little bit from.
I mean, learning a language is difficult, but teaching yourself how to speak another language must be
Yeah,
so
it was
hard.
challenging, but I'm glad I did it
Yeah.
because it's just I learned in a different way to just deal with the situations, with any situation around. I think that makes me stronger in a way. I remember once actually one of the jobs, because I was doing part-time jobs a lot at that time. They sent me to a preschool to serve dinners lunchtime, and obviously some of the words there I don't really know them, like in the yeah. And I remember this 5 or 6 year old boy told me, "Oh, can I have a baked beans?" And I said, "Oh, I know beans, but baked beans, what is that?" I was like, "Oh my god, so embarrassing now when I talk." It's so he, just point out to me. I felt like, have to push myself hard. I think that was the first 2 months when I arrived.
Yeah.
And then this gave me a little bit more of go for it. And yeah, I moved on later on from hospitality. I think I was in the hospitality. I work in a private members club. After I work as a supervisor, then went to a restaurant manager. But all these shifts you have in a restaurant or in hotels, you have 24/7. You work in days that you don't really have a set hours of work. So it's difficult for me to have a family, and I have a little boy at that time, and obviously see your husband, and you just have a normal family life. You can't have really. So I decided, I think I was at that time, probably 7, 8 years later, I said, that's it, I have to move on. And I decided just to obviously abandon hospitality
Yeah.
and move on to the world of finance and
Completely
kind of
different.
completely different area. Yes. Well, I studied business management
Okay.
at the uni, but obviously when I arrived here in UK, my degree was not accepted. Later on, yes, I got some more courses, and I just brought it up to actually match what it is here. But at that time, it wasn't. So it was pointless. I could not use it. So basically, that's why I started working in hospitality. And then I was looking for a 9 to 5 job. Realistically, there's no such a thing. Maybe now it's more like after COVID and everything, you have that flexibility. But when you just start in the city, you want to prove yourself. You want people to give you responsibility. You have to, show them what you can do and how, far you can go. Because only just doing the job is not enough. And I think lots of people misunderstand that. You have your agreement, and, you say, oh, yeah, that's my responsibility and that's what it is. That's not enough. If you're actually only following this, you're just like everyone else. What makes you different? Nothing. And I just realized I have to push myself. So I started taking more courses. I started working in the reception. Then I moved to administration a little bit. And then my boss, I think he just got rid of his PA at that time. And he saw me that I'm always on time. I'm always doing everything, well organized, things like that. So he decided to give me a, opportunity to prove myself and to do this job. So that's how I started, actually.
That's very cool.
Yes.
And now, obviously, you're balancing executive assistant and office manager.
And HR lately.
And oh my God,
Yes.
so you're wearing every single hat
Yes,
possibly in the
it's
entire
quite-
business. How do you balance all of that? How do you keep yourself so organized that you can do technically 3 people's jobs really well just as one person?
Apart from experience, because it's nice if you have it, but if you don't have it, like I just started HR, for example, I noticed that if you you have to plan your days, week, if you can, not necessarily with the EA job and, office management, things can happen last minute. But with HR, it's actually possible. So what I noticed that if I do my little list, even the list changed, during the day or the week, it doesn't matter. I have it. So I have points to follow up. And if something more important comes up, obviously, I'm going to jump on that and cover that. It's all about trying, like a sixth sense, isn't it? You have to feel what is the most important thing to do. Because if you have a deadline for something that is in about 3 to 4 days, but another thing that comes up now and has to be done now, something like silly flight change or, emergency, something, you're going to do that. And obviously not going to do the spreadsheet that you have to do for later of the week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's more kind of managing and planning and do your list, to-do list. I know it sounds silly because lots of people say, I do remember. Yeah, I used to say that, but since I started doing my lists, I never miss anything. So maybe this, I have no idea, yeah.
So do you ever find that you have to push back and say no to people more now at the office because you've obviously got this additional responsibility? Because everybody must know you as Maggie, EA, office manager, and obviously now your responsibilities have increased. So have you found that with that increase of responsibility, you've got to maybe manage expectations a bit more or create firmer boundaries? You know, what's that been like? And also, was that just given to you, or did you say, I would really like to start learning HR?
Yes. When it comes to boundaries, yes, you have to make sure that people know what they can and they can do, because this is really, as I'm always smiley and nice and friendly, they misunderstood sometimes that they can get away with everything. That's not the way. I guess it's the way you approach every individual. It's different, obviously, but I think working in hospitality helped me to read people. On that part, it's all about, like, when you have something, when someone wants something, and if it's urgent, but how urgent is it? Is it because they worry as they forgot something and you have to help them out? Then this case is not that urgent. It's just all about balance, and the way I deal with people when they come, like you said, boundaries is, if I'm really busy, I just say no. And if it doesn't fall to my job description, but I'm always helpful, that's fine. But if I can't actually do what they ask me to do, I will say no. And I will offer, obviously, always, if you can, offer that you can do it tomorrow, you can do it after hour, happy. So maybe it's an option on their end, they can change that. Not only just no.
Yeah.
Don't do that. I mean, you can, but I mean, if it's part of your job, then you're not really showing that you want to help.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's not an option. But I always try to actually say, if I'm busy, no, but at the same time to give them opportunity or options if later on, obviously, I'm needed. I think this is really important. And about the job, isn't it? You said HR.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just been studying for 1 year already. I mean, is it a year now? Yeah, I passed all my exams,
Oh,
CIPD.
amazing. Congratulations.
Yes, so that's why. But I did wanted to learn. It's been actually the last 2 years, but I never actually go around to talk to, obviously, HR and my boss. So I actually had my appraisal last year. I said I really wanted to help. And they say, yeah, I think you'll be brilliant because you're a people person. And I decided to go for it.
So did they help you study for the CIPD course and kind of give you that opportunity as a business? Yes,
they help me. And I have an HR external manager that helps me a lot as well.
Yeah.
So she's teaching me everything. And I know it's not, lots of people will say, well, why? You already have a job, you have that. And I said, yes, probably. But I'm that kind of person. If I get not bored, but maybe if I pass certain years or certain experience and I can feel that I can do more, I will take initiative and actually do more. And for me, it's kind of little opportunity. If you think about it, everyone can do one job. But extra bits, if you add on, you're going to be unreplaceable in a way, because you're going to be able to do more or have more opportunity. I think people have to open their eyes about that. I think lots of people say, oh yeah, that's my job and that's it, 9 to 5, I don't want to do anything else. But everyone's different. That's me.
Everyone's different. Okay, so if someone's in a position at the minute and they want to do something extra, as someone who's been through that process, asked their company for help, say, for example, this person doesn't have the confidence, they don't know how to have that conversation, what would your advice be?
Well, it's quite, HR are quite flexible. So usually if you talk to HR person, not directly your boss, for example, if you worry that you're going to be turned down, HR are usually there to help. So you can always put it down as a like a little points that usually they ask you in every single appraisal, what do you want to do? What do you want to achieve the next 12 months, isn't it? What you proud of it, what you achieved in the past 12 months. So things like that. And it's not necessarily you have to say the month you want to do that or they have to give it to you, but it's more kind of what you can do for the company. So showing interest, and you can get a lot of stuff. I think people demanding all the time is the problem, but showing your interest, then they see you as a valuable asset, and they will help you because that's help for you as well for external for later on in life in general.
Absolutely.
So I think you have to be more open and not demanding too much. Obviously, you have to know your rights. That's I'm not talking about that, but it's just demanding in a way of they have to, of the
Yeah.
sake of because you work for them.
Yeah. Whenever we do objective training in the assistant membership, the thing that I think a lot of people forget, which is something that you just mentioned, is that to get something signed off by a company, you have to show the benefit that it will bring to that business.
Yeah.
And if you can justify that, I think we say the process is you highlight your objective or something you want to do. You highlight how it can stretch you, how it can grow you, what you need to make it happen, and how the business can benefit. And if you do everything in that order, then, how can the company say no? Obviously, not everybody's
not
going to say
everyone.
yes, but it's the best business case that you could possibly put to them. And you're the perfect example of how that can work.
Yeah, I did not expect them to obviously agree with me or accept that, but it's just I noticed the last obviously 2 years with COVID, I did quite a lot of we're staying at home, and I had the time to do other jobs in the company as well to help with some admins and HR as well. So I decided to myself, well, I can do that job. I'm actually really happy doing it. And I think they saw this, that the effort I put, that extra effort outside my job description. And obviously that's earning me positively,
Yeah.
I guess. And yeah, I'm actually really happy. Finally, the learning is over. It was really intense because you have 1 year nonstop, and you have every 6 to 8 weeks, you have 2 to 3 exams
Oh,
nonstop
wow.
for 12 months. No, bank holiday, no Christmas, nothing. You just, every week is a new material. So for 12 months.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's change the subject completely and let's talk about Mrs. World.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you take this conversation. Talk to us about that whole situation, because I think that anyone listening to this, it's going to be an amazing surprise to hear that you were voted Mrs. World 2020. Obviously, you deserve it.
Thank you.
But how did that happen? How did you get involved in it? What did it include? What is the whole process?
Yeah, I was invited actually from a friend to watch one of the events. I think it was Mrs. Galaxy, I can't remember. And I met amazing women, like different background, different profession, different ages. And they all were like really friendly with each other and happy and make friendships as well. And I was really touched by that. I said, well, I was reaching certain age. I said to myself, you know what, I'm just going to give it a try. It's like, it's more kind of experience. It's not that you're going to win. It's nothing to do when you're in 20, everyone have different views. But for me, it was just more meeting other people, to be honest. And just do something extra, challenge yourself. And I did took a part in Mrs. Galaxy. I think I become 5th or 6th. I can't remember that. I was quite a few years back. And I stopped for 2 years. And then, obviously, because I met so many people, I had some of the friends applying for Mrs. World. And I said, well, I'm not really, I don't think I am. But they actually approached me and said, well, because the whole point of Mrs. World, the whole concept is they want to show that women can juggle a few things, like can be a mom, can be a professional, can be a housewife, can be a friend, anything really, if you put your mind to it and you actually working for it as well. in a long term. As obviously now it's different. It's more kind of message for the youngster, to be honest. That's what they were aiming for. And just to show that once you're married doesn't mean the life stops. You just have to keep going and just live and do different paths maybe in your life. That's what it is. And I really kind of stood out, I mean, behind this message, because that's what I'm actually believing it is in general. I decided, yes, I think I was reaching around 40s and say, yeah, I can do that. It's just a little experience for me. And it was really funny because I didn't expect to win. I was representing London. And obviously we do lots of charity and, appointments, things like that. And when they said, oh, that's the finals, and I was really nervous, to be honest. Actually, after going to finals, won, and I knew I was going to go to Las Vegas for the finals. I think we were around between 60 or 70 women all around the world.
Wow.
It was a big group.
Is it like Miss Congeniality?
Yeah, it's madness. Some of the little countries that you never heard of it. I'm sorry. I mean, I was good in geographic, so it's like, it was embarrassing sometimes. Like, where was that? Sorry. It was funny, but I was excited and nervous at the same time. It doesn't matter how confident you are. You're representing England. It's completely different story. It's not just you representing your company, your work. It's a bigger picture.
Your country.
Yes. So for me, it was like, I have to be the best of what I can be and get this message across. So for me, it was really exciting. But I was positive as well, because I never been to such a bigger event in award scales. So for me, it was like life experience as well. It is hard work. People say, oh yeah, would you do that? Nothing, you just dress up, makeup. Even if it's a missus, because the people wouldn't understand, Miss and Mrs. it's completely different concept.
Okay.
I think that's what they don't understand.
How are they different?
Well, Miss, yes, obviously you're younger, you're promoting, positivity, charity, support, things like that. But when you're older, you kind of, in the Mrs. word, you kind of promoting marriage, obviously marriage as well, in totally with everything else, like the life after you're younger, the life after you have kids eventually, for example. That's not everyone's talking about. It usually when we're young, we don't have really responsibility. It's much easier to fit something in your schedule. And I've been there, and I can say, oh yeah, that's, it's fine. But now I can see the difference. So that's what was the Mrs. That was the difference. The Mrs. word is, yes, it could be the same thing, but you don't have to. It's not about you being pretty, because you can be size 14. We had, women all around the world. Some of the 14, 16. It's nothing to do about the way you look. It's about your inner beauty, actually.
Who you are as a person.
That's what it is, and your achievement in life, and what you bring to the society. That's what it is. But I made amazing friendships with Mrs. Brazil, France. I mean, so many.
This is just such a bizarre conversation. One of my friends, Mrs. Brazil, Mrs. Russia.
Mexico, she's gorgeous. I mean, she's like, yeah.
So what did you learn the most throughout that entire process about yourself? Because obviously you were crowned Mrs. World, which was amazing.
Thank you.
What did you learn about? Is there anything that you didn't know about yourself that you learned throughout that process?
Yeah, because I'm always eager to do more in my life in general, and I'm always pushing myself too much. Maybe this is something I learned from the other contestants, that yes, you want to do your best, but sometimes you have to step back, take a deep breath, rest a little bit, and go again, which I wasn't allowing to do that for me. I was just like, go and go and go. But over there, talking to other people and with their experience, obviously not getting into details, I think I've learned that maybe I should let myself to rest sometimes, and I just to, take some little steps from time to time, not just pushing myself the last 20 years all the time. But yeah, I think that's what I found with myself.
That's a brilliant message, though. I think that applies to so many
Probably.
PAs and EAs as well,
Oh my
because
God.
everyone's go,
Yeah.
put themselves second all the time. And so many people, I think, struggle with the idea of taking a step back because they feel like they would be a bad executive assistant or personal assistant if they take time for themselves.
Unfortunately, I've seen situations like that. And I think the way I deal with it obviously depends obviously with what type of boss you have. I think my advice for everyone that starts on this position as well is like, have a little conversation about your boss, what the expectation is, what the boundaries are. If you're not sure about something, you just have to be open, because at the end of the day, you're there to help them and they know that. But if you're not speaking to them, there's no way they'll know. And even if you need a break, I mean, they will be probably surprised if they say, oh, you know what, I have a headache, I just had a busy morning, can I go for a nice half an hour walk? And probably 99.9% will say yes. And I think it's more kind of initiative getting this and going and asking for it, because it's really important. They know you need that. You're a human being, so you have to take care of yourself. So you wouldn't be able to do the job actually.
So office manager, EA, HR, mum, Mrs. World, but you are also technically a brand in yourself, Maggie, because you have nearly 200,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
And that's a huge job in itself to manage that. You know, the content management, the creation, scheduling, coming up with the ideas. How do you actually fit all of this in? Because it seems impossible to me. You know, nearly 200,000 followers takes a lot of commitment to get to that point. So how do you balance it all, truly? Like, what's your secret?
I actually started as a hobby. I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. I like fashion. I like beauty and stuff like that. So I decided, oh, we're just going to start. But I was really honest. All my videos, posts, I'm honest. And I don't do like over filter use and things like that. And I think people start following me somehow and asking me for ideas and sending me DMs for which beauty studio I'm using, all that stuff. And it's like, oh, well, I'm happy to help. As I said earlier, I'm a people person. I say, I would love to help someone. I'm not, that was the concept actually, was hobby. And after I got all this exposure, I start doing more professional photos. My husband helps me with that. His hobby is photography, so he does the professional photographs on my page, which makes sense, and he loves it.
So he's your ultimate cheerleader and supporter.
Yes, he does give me ideas of, male point of view as well. Managing is quite difficult, to be honest, only because as I work full time, housework and things like that, it's just challenging. But I always try to make, maybe just in advance, like planning everything. I work with quite lots of brands lately, and it's a busy summer actually. I'm looking at, that's why I was like, oh my god, I have so many going on, and I'm actually publishing some of the websites as well with the fashion. Yeah, so I work with lots of companies in London, in UK. So it's kind of, it is a hobby, I would say. That's not my job, that's a hobby. And it's my passion. It's something like everyone else, like you going to the gym. It's a hobby, basically. But I enjoy it so much. So hopefully my followers appreciate that.
Shout out
my
to Maggie's
input,
followers.
Yeah. But I love staying connected to them. I think that's what the secret is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of building on everything we've spoken about so far, let's talk about confidence and imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Because obviously you moved over to the UK, didn't know really any English, established yourself, started working in an industry, in hospitality. Yeah. Now, obviously, you're office manager, executive assistant, and newly qualified HR for a finance business in London. And obviously, you're Mrs. World. So all of these things are absolutely amazing, but there must have been moments where you doubted yourself, and that imposter syndrome kind of really, even though you were absolutely determined to do all of these amazing things, there must have been moments where you thought, I don't know what I'm doing and am I in the right place or am I doing the right thing?
Yes. That usually comes when you're really tired.
Mm-hmm.
Firstly, to me, I mean, now these days, for example. But when I was younger, I'll be, I always doubt myself all the time. As soon as I start actually taking the steps and saying to myself, what the worst can happen? And you have to write yourself the points. Okay, what are the consequences afterwards? Let's say you apply for an amazing job opportunity and then you doubt yourself, would you get the job? Yeah, but the whole idea of you doing it, you going for an interview, it doesn't matter if you get the job or no. This is a step. So you have to put what the worst case scenarios, you're not going to take the job. You're going to do another one. That's it. You have to see the outcome of it, really. I think that's what makes me realize if it's not something bad happening in a general, there's no point of excuses. You can just go for it. And yes, you can be nervous and things like that. It's absolutely normal. But the whole idea of you trying to go for it what is matter, and that's automatically works for your mind as well, and makes you feel stronger. It's amazing how you feel afterwards, even if they don't, if you don't get picked up for the certain jobs. The whole idea you get to this process, you're gonna feel more confident even the next interview. Mm-hmm. It's all about trying. As soon as I start doing this, I found myself that I have more, trust in myself, believing myself more. And I was really doubting myself the first few years, let's put it that way. And I'll go home and I'll be like, no, I can't. It's just, I think it's all about the society as well. It's like they want too much from everyone, really, which is fine, but we're all different. So you have to find the point of what is good for you and what is best for you and what works for you. Because if you're going for different interviews all the time, it's not okay for you. Maybe you should see a different tactics, but you just have to try. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. They're not gonna, it's nothing major is not gonna happen. It's gonna be still you. You're still gonna be in the same position. That's it. But at least you try. Yeah. I think you should definitely push yourself and try. That's it.
So when I stopped being a PA in 2016, my last ever PA job, I left because I needed a break from my mental health. And I thought, I'm just going to start a little blog to keep me busy. And I'm going to go back to work after 2 months. And 6 years later, that tiny little blog has now turned into the assistant room. And we've got a digital magazine, our podcast that we're doing today, our membership. We do like recruitment and headhunting. If I hadn't taken that chance, knowing that it's going to be okay, I can leave this job. I don't have to be somewhere I don't want to be if I don't want to.
That's really important.
What, as you said, what is the worst that's going to happen? I'm either going to end up working in the pub, which is not a big deal, or I'm just going to go back into being a temp or a PA. Like there's always options. I think as women, we're told that we have to be a certain way though, aren't we? You have to prioritize certain things. So that limits you a bit more.
That's and then the mentality start changing, I'll be honest with you, but it'll take a while, I guess. But yeah, if you can, no one else will do that for you. You have to do it yourself. And I think as soon as you start doing it, you actually gonna probably question yourself later on why you have not done it earlier.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, great. So if you were to look back at your career so far and all of the things that you've been through, what would you say are the biggest challenges and how have you kind of overcome those challenges?
Oh, that's a really tough question. The biggest challenge is firstly saying no, because when I was growing up, I always wanted to be the best friend, give myself like 100% to any job, anything I do. And the big challenge is actually learning, or actually taught myself that not everything can be 100%. You have to just do what you can do and hoping that whatever, it's kind of something like you're feeling inside you. It's like any other job. Even I'm a mom, so I kind of think sometimes, oh, am I a good mom? You just question yourself. That's perfectly normal. But the whole idea of you actually challenging yourself. This is the biggest achievement for me, challenging myself and going, against something that I thought I'm never going to be doing. And you do like Mrs. Ward or anything really in life in general, studying English. I mean, imagine when I was a kid, I thought I'd never speak another language. I was studying French at school. I said, oh my God, I was okay, but I wasn't the best. I said, there's no way I'll speak another language. And 20 years later, just, it's really funny. How life turns out if you kind of let yourself go and just try. I think that's what my biggest achievement is.
Trust the process.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go for it.
Going back very quickly to Mrs. World, do you think that experience has impacted your confidence or changed the way that you are at work in any way? Do you think that's given you something extra that you didn't have beforehand? Maybe that's confidence or a different outlook on things.
Not the confidence, I don't think so. But the look of the life in general. Because when I met all these women around the world, it's just their life was different from mine. But at the same time, they're happier, they achieve different things. So I had more ideas and more open up. It's like the travel. You're traveling around, and if someone has not traveled, and if you put two people together, one that been living all their life in the same city, never been anywhere in their life, and someone that travels a lot, it's a huge difference. So that's what actually happened to me, is like having friends all around the world, and it's just my mind opened a little bit more in general. And not the confidence, it's more kind of, positive that you have it. You can get that if you go to events like that and Mrs. Ward pageants, but it's not the major thing that happened to you. It's like viewing life in general and the approach in life in general. That's what it is.
Okay,
yeah.
Brilliant. Well, let's finish on the question that we ask everybody. Okay. And you probably will remember this from when we did our first recording. What I want to know is that everything you've been through so far, absolutely everything, if you were to speak to Maggie on day one of her career in London, what advice would you give her?
Just start early to believe yourself. I was doubting myself for a few years, 2 to 3 years in the beginning, and I could have done not more, but maybe. That's the best. That's the only thing. I just go for it. Trust yourself, and just believe in yourself. Yeah, I think that's the advice I would give myself, younger myself. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Definitely.
Thanks, Maggie. Thanks for listening. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram to keep up to date with all of our future episodes. And if you're looking for a place to focus on your personal and professional development, we have a place in the Assistant Room membership with your name on it. Head to our website for more information on how to sign up and become part of our award-winning online global community for assistants everywhere.